Who had a worse weekend? The Raiders or the No Kings protesters? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Good morning. It is great to be here at 6:05 on a Monday, a Victory Monday on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We are streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app as always. The Chiefs absolutely demolished the Raiders yesterday in a game where they pulled the starters by the end of the third quarter. 31-0 win. Mark was at the game. He almost hit the big parlay he gave you on Friday, but because it was such a blowout, the Chiefs pulled the starters early, and Rashee Rice needed what, Mark? 14 more yards to hit your big parlay? I need your mic on. That would help.
Even 8 more yards.
8 more yards. Oh, my goodness.
So close.
Oh, this close, man. Every Friday morning at around 8:45, Mark gives us a Chiefs parlay in case you're not here later in the morning. And he hit last week. This week, he came up just short because the Chiefs were too good for their own good. That was the problem this week. Oh,
I was fine with them taking him out, though. Better safe than sorry.
Well, you know what? That's why you're a team player, Mark. You see the big picture, buddy. It's not just about getting you a big parlay win. It's about the big picture for the Chiefs, who are now 4-3 after absolute domination yesterday. My goodness. And if you didn't see this trick play the Chiefs pulled off, this was great. So if you're not a football fan, I was explaining this to Kate last night. I'll do it here in like 30 seconds. If you're not a football fan, the Chiefs are sitting there with a 4th and 1 in this game. First half. And normally they would go back there and they would punt the ball, right? Let the other team get the ball and try to take the ball down the field and score. The other thing you can do is obviously run a play on 4th down. So they decide what they're going to do is they're going to pretend like they're faking an actual play and then run the play itself. So basically what they were looking at here is, can we lull the Raiders into a place where they think we're not actually going to run this 4th down play, and we're just trying to draw them off sides? Because if the Raiders jump off sides, what happens? The Chiefs get an automatic first down, and they get to keep going. Well, Patrick Mahomes has this moment, and it was caught on TV yesterday, where he says, man, this never works, where you try to draw a team off sides, and nothing happens, and they don't budge. But what happened? He's basically acting. Mahomes says, this never works, and then he ends up running a play, and they get a first down.
Never works, man. Sorry. Mahomes says, Coach, it doesn't
there they go.
work. He was faking it.
There they go. You would give it up on that one. You thought for sure it was a draw, didn't you?
Andy Reid.
Draw him offside.
Unbelievable. Pete Carroll even knows this. We're going to make you think we're trying to draw you off sides, and then we're going to go ahead and take a downward punt. And then he goes, and Mahomes goes, it never works. It never stinking works.
There's Tony. Jim, it just never works. Oh, Jim, there he goes. Jim.
4th and 1, and Patrick throws a bomb. It was a big F-bomb, and they kind of were dancing around it.
That was so funny. A couple of F-bombs there where Mahomes is at the line of scrimmage. This never works, man. This never bleeping works, man. You couldn't hear that in the stadium, could you, yesterday, Mark?
No, that's what I was saying. Live, I was just like, all right, they went for it and they got it. That's awesome. So after the fact, I saw that, and that was crazy.
Classic.
That was so great.
I was with him. I mean, it's like he's reading my mind, because I saw the move. I saw Kelsey go back. I think it was Kelsey and then Gray. They did it twice, and nobody jumped, and he threw his hands out. Like, I'm with you, brother, preach to the choir. And all of a sudden, you could hear it. And Tony Romo was like, oh, sorry.
It was so good. Yesterday was a celebratory day at Arrowhead. The stadium was empty with like 5-6 minutes left in the fourth quarter because everyone just said, hey, nothing else to see here. Starters are out. We're going home. But, of course, Mark, he stayed for the whole thing,
And then, since the parking lot cleared out a little bit, it only took about 20 minutes to get out.
Look at you,
it's
man.
Not bad.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Mark trying to squeeze every last minute out of having to go home with the 3 little kids. So I know, Mark, it's okay, buddy. You had your day. You weren't going to leave that game early. I understand.
Exactly.
It's all right.
Right.
It's all right, my man. It's all right. But, it's funny being out and about this weekend, how many people were asking about, hey, Pete, you go down to the No Kings protest this weekend? Hardy, har. It's like, no, I'd rather slip my wrists, okay? I was not going to go down to one of the dozen No Kings protests that were being had all over Kansas City. But I'll tell you what, the No Kings protesters I saw, they may have had a worse weekend than the Raiders did in this town. Man, it was not the cream of the crop. It just wasn't. I want to play some of what we heard from Fox 4 down at Mill Creek Park over the weekend.
The message behind No Kings, that the power belongs to the people in America.
It'll never be right with the kind of leadership that he's providing at this current time. It's important that we get out and that we let it be known, not just to the president, but to our representatives, Senator Hollis, Senator Schmid, and all the Republican House of Representatives.
I can't wait to have Senator Schmid on the phone next. Goodness gracious.
Classic. I love that stuff.
They drag him out of the nursing home, and then they're like, get me Senator Schmid on the line, please. Do we have a Senator Schmid around here? I talked to a Senator Eric Schmidt last week, double T, but I have not heard from a Senator Schmid yet. He may be a new member that I'm not aware of. But we got to get this Senator Schmid on the phone at some point today. We'll see what he's up to. My goodness gracious. That was just too much. That was too much, man. But those are the kind of characters you had down at Mill Creek Park. And some of you were sending me photos from like 95th and Metcalf over the weekend at Overland Park. And it was exactly what we told you it was going to be on Friday. It was about 24 boomers who clearly had nothing better to do with their time, figured they'd go have brunch and then make a couple of signs and go down to the street corner and, protest the orange man bad. And that was it. That was the extent of it. Yes, there were a lot of people at Mill Creek Park. It looked like there, I don't know, a couple thousand, whatever it might have been.
Yeah, but how many under 10?
Yeah.
Right? I saw grandkids. Well, you're taking your grandkids
I know.
to this stuff. And the kids don't know what's going on. They're, just along for the walk in the park.
I know, but I agree. It's like, you're dragging the grandkids out to some of these things. It's just, that was embarrassing. You want to go down and do your thing, I suppose, that's obviously your right, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure a king would not allow that many people to protest him in cities all over the country. But, why let the facts get in the way of a good story, right? So you see some of these folks around Kansas City, and for the most part, it's what we expected. It changes absolutely nothing as we start day 20 of a government shutdown here in Kansas City and across the country. Doesn't mean a darn thing for anybody. It's back to business as usual. But if people got it off their chest, I'm happy for them. Here's the difference between, let's say, the No Kings protest and the Tea Party movement from 15 years ago now. The Tea Party movement was motivated by policy. It was motivated by a vision for the country that was based in an ideology and policy. What we saw on Saturday was basically fits from toddlers about Trump. That's it. And I think that's an important distinction to make, because I think that the Trump thing only gets you so far for so long until people are like, okay, what else do you have for me here? Is there something else that we can use and latch onto? And it's always like, no, it's just orange man bad. Okay, well, I get it. You don't like the guy, and maybe there are people out there who don't love him either. But at the same time, you got to have something more here. And they had a No Kings rally over the summer. They basically just did a 2.0 this time around. That's all it was.
It gets to be like the Monty Python movie where they're protesting the Romans. What have the Romans done for us lately? Well, they built the aqueducts. Well, yeah, but apart from the aqueducts, what have the Romans done for us? Well, the public education. Well, okay, that's a given. What has Trump done? Well, besides that, besides ending that war.
Yeah, besides all the things he's done that actually kind of work out pretty well for most American people.
Other than that.
913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO. Let's say hi to Mike on a Monday. What's up, Mike?
Yeah, I was at Shields Saturday, and they were all out over there, a few of them. They were all elderly. I didn't see anybody under 70, or very few people under 70. And the other thing was, they were absolutely all white. We didn't see any African Americans there. We didn't even see any Hispanics or other Latinos. It was just a bunch of elderly white Johnson County Karens, mostly, out there with silly signs that I don't think they even knew the meaning of.
Yeah. Well, are you at all surprised? Because this is what we predicted on Friday.
No, it's a bunch of old hippies from the 60s, just like you said. They want to relive Woodstock and, all the causes that we wanted in the 60s that, in life's past, Next thing you know, they're going to be protesting to bring disco back or something.
Thank you, Mike. They're going to be protesting to bring disco back. Oh, no, please. We've had enough of that. Don't go there, please. No, don't do it.
That leisure suit.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Happy Monday. Glad you're starting the week off with us on KCMO. Coming up, I got to update you on something involving a firing that took place in Kansas City that is highly controversial. And we have some exclusive audio that you have not heard anywhere in Kansas City media that we will get to as well this hour on KCMO. Well, the fight continues to reinstate a Blue Valley kindergarten teacher. Barb Hart is her name, after she was terminated for violating school policy. What did she do in one of the most ridiculous firings I've ever seen? This stemmed from an incident where the teacher was requested to come help a special needs student, which she has 25 years of experience doing in the Blue Valley schools. She picked up the special needs student. She moved the student to a safe part of her classroom. And she got fired. Why? Because she put her hands on the student. Well, now we have the family of the student making their voice heard as well. Fox 4 obtained a letter addressed to the school board. And you have, as we told you last week, the family supporting the teacher who was fired. The teacher who picked up their child and moved that special needs child into a safe space in her classroom. That family is backing the teacher. The letter reads in part here, this is the student's first semester at kindergarten, and we are very grateful to have Mrs. Hart. She is very loving, caring, and a passionate person to her students. We can tell that from the details in her feedback, 25 years of teaching experience has shaped her to be one of a kind. To be frank, 25 years to any person means more than a job. She has loyalty, and she must love it strongly. I hope that Blue Valley School District takes it seriously to get Mrs. Hart back. It is easy to terminate an employee, but we need to look at the full picture. Nobody is perfect and can please everyone, but she tries her best to make everything work. A replacement can be found, but a good teacher is hard to get. There also is a change.org petition that now has 2,500 signatures as of last night supporting bringing back Barb Hart to the Blue Valley School District. And we'll share that change.org petition on our social media as well. So obviously, since the story broke last week and since she was fired last week at the Blue Valley School Board meeting, there has been outrage, not just in the Blue Valley School District, but across Kansas City. Because you have, of all the issues that exist in the public school system, and there are many of them, you still have really good teachers who go to work every day, oftentimes are underpaid and underappreciated, but do it for the right reasons. And Barb Hart was one of them. And now you have the family saying, we are glad that she was there to help our special needs kindergartner. And as someone who has a first grader and a future kindergartner come next year, you think about that age and how difficult it is for kids at 5, maybe 6 years old to walk into these buildings, be in this school by themselves, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours a day in some cases. Never mind if you have a special needs child and that child has a full-blown meltdown, and then a teacher of 25 years who has experience doing this, who is called into the situation, picks the child up, removes the child from the hallway, puts that child into her classroom, and gets fired for it. That is everything that people can't stand about the way that the public school system has become a bureaucratic nightmare. And on top of that, what you've got from what I've heard from people privately on the school board is many school board members knowing that this was the wrong decision, but doing it anyway because they were fearful of the administration. That's not how this is supposed to work. The school board is elected by you, the people. You want to talk about a king? We're sitting here talking about the No Kings protests over the weekend. The king analogy, I believe, works far more on the local school board level than it does in our federal government right now. You have elected school board members who, from what I'm hearing, are afraid to stand up to the unelected superintendent. They didn't want to seem like they were disagreeing with the superintendent and the administration's decision to fire the teacher. Who's the king around here? Where are all those white-haired ex-hippies to go down to the Blue Valley School Board meetings and talk about no kings? You can't find them. They're too busy bathing in their TDS this morning anyway. But that's a real king right there. When the elected officials by the people are afraid to stand up for their constituents out of fear of some type of retribution from the unelected king. That's it. So I did reach out and exchange messages with Barb Hart over the weekend, and we'll see if we can get her to come on the show at some point. I understand she's got a lot of moving parts. I understand that, there are legal things that she can and cannot say right now. I'm well aware of that. But if we can bring her on this show this week, we will. Because it's not just about her. It's about a system that if this is allowed to go through, you will have teachers throwing their hands up and saying, what more can I do? They still have to protect themselves. They've got to protect their pensions. I understand that. And if doing something like what Barb Hart did results in you losing your job, losing your income, your livelihood, and potentially a pension, you going to do it? Or are we now just going to have kindergarten kids with special needs wailing in the hallway with nobody doing anything about it because people are scared to death of being the next Barb Hart? What do you think's going to happen? It's just like policing. If you handcuff the police enough, they throw their hands up and they say, you know what? Why be proactive? It is the same thing with teachers, and this in the Blue Valley School District is a prime example of that. And as multiple people who are involved in the Blue Valley School District said to me over the weekend, please don't let the story go. And we're not. We're going to hammer this thing as long as there is updated news around it and more information to bring to you as well. All right, I'd love to get this answer, and I believe Paul in Overland Park may be able to help us as to why Barb Hart, the teacher who was fired by Blue Valley last week for helping a special needs child get into a safe space, helping the child calm down. The parents have supported the fired teacher, and they've said in a letter they believe that the teacher should be reinstated. Paul may have the answer as to why there is no teachers union involvement here. Paul, what do you got for us?
Man, Pete, you propped me up big time. So, Pete,
don't let me down now, Paul. Don't have a swing and a miss here. All right, I put it on a tee for you.
I hope not. About 10 plus years ago, and maybe even a little bit longer, the Blue Valley teachers resigned their position with the NEA and now have an education association. And the primary use is for negotiating salaries, benefits, and all that. It doesn't mean there aren't protection, but when you don't see them as loud mouth like the Shawnee Mission NEA or the Olathe NEA, is because it's just an education association focused around benefits and all that. So it's been a good thing, but it's also probably in this situation not a good thing for Barbara, where you don't have some loudmouth radical teacher fighting for her.
Wow. So the one time you might want to have a big, blustery union rep blowing their horn on your behalf, the one time I actually might be okay with that, Blue Valley actually doesn't have it.
Correct. It's a good thing because we don't have all the political nuisance and nuance and all the nuts that going on in Olathe and Shawnee Mission, but also, this is probably a time where it would have been a benefit. And hopefully I hit one out for you.
Oh, you did, man. You did. That was a good job there, Paul. Well done. Thank you for the, that's really good information. Literally answering the question. as to why Barb Hart has not had that union rep screaming at the top of his or her lungs on her behalf. Well, then you know what? I'll be the union rep for Barb Hart, okay? I'll do it. Yeah. I'll be the big mouth union rep for Barb Hart and use this microphone here in 95.7 FM to do it. I'm fine doing that. She needs one, I'll do it, John. Pro bono, baby.
Yeah, it's good information from Paul. I guess on the other hand, I was thinking, I don't know if the union would step up for her or not. And they'd be, gee, our hands are tied.
Yeah, well, you're right.
So,
we'll never know.
I'm not sure. So that explains it, though.
Yeah, it does. We will never know. Right as I see J.B. Pritzker on my TV screen at a No Kings rally. Oh, my God. Talk about a blowhard. Oof. Unbelievable.
You thought it was King's Cake rally. Showing up for the food.
Oh, man. Well, the government shutdown has hit 20 days. Today is day 20 of the government shutdown. Have you noticed yet? No? Okay. Just making sure. But Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, was on ABC's This Week yesterday with John Karl. And listen to how Mike Johnson beautifully handles this question from ABC and John Karl talking about the shutdown yesterday.
The Democrats did not vote for the clean funding bill. They have chosen to shut the government down to fight for the health care and the other items you mentioned. But let me ask you, why?
It's an interesting framing by ABC. The Democrats have chosen to shut the government down. I don't know if he meant to phrase it like that or if he just got caught telling the truth. But let's continue.
As this is going on, why is the House not in session?
Well, first of all, we're fighting for health care as well, not just in word, but in deed. We put it in the one big, beautiful bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, real reforms to Medicaid to make it work better, to preserve the program, because we had illegal aliens receiving benefits. We had young, able-bodied men who were not working. They don't have dependents. They were riding the wagon. We cleaned that up in our bill. In their counterproposal, what Chuck Schumer is arguing for is he wants to reverse those reforms, which would be a terrible policy decision for the people.
That is Mike Johnson explaining how we got here. They passed that big, beautiful bill back in July, and that strips out Medicaid for illegal immigrants. It makes it so that young men have to, or young people in general, but, notably young men, have to actually go out into the labor force. You got to work, you got to volunteer, you got to be in school to get things like Obamacare. You have to do those little things to get basically government subsidized insurance. And then now, as we sit here on day 20 of this shutdown, you have one political party that says, we don't agree with what you guys passed. That, by the way, they had every right to pass, just like the Democrats passed the Inflation Reduction Act back in 2021. There's never been a worse name for a piece of legislation than the Inflation Reduction Act that helped spike inflation to 40-year highs. But they were allowed to pass it. They had the power in the House and the Senate and the White House, and they passed it. And because Republicans screwed up in 2020 and didn't focus on those two Georgia Senate race runoffs, Democrats won the Senate. They got to pass their legislation. Republicans did the same thing this year. They passed their legislation. Completely legal what they did, by the book. And now Democrats have chosen to shut the government down because they didn't like that legislation that was legally passed back in July and signed into law. That's how we got here. And then they have the audacity to have a No Kings protest over the weekend, protesting this made-up idea of Trump being a king, which I'm pretty sure if Trump was a king, the government would be open today. And I'm pretty sure if Trump was a king, he wouldn't have had millions of people protesting his kingdom on Saturday afternoon. Like, you think about how we got here with the shutdown, what it's led to today, and none of it makes any sense as it relates to the Saturday protest. Chiefs are rolling 31-0 win over the Raiders. That was absolute domination. You had the starters pulled by the end of the third quarter yesterday. And well, across the parking lot, the question, of course, is where are the Royals going? I've got some audio here I want to share with you on KCMO Talk Radio, and it comes from Mayor Kurt Skoog. He spoke on Friday morning at a breakfast club, and I have some audio from that breakfast club where the mayor of Overland Park was a little more open, a little more honest than maybe what we've heard in the media. on this story over the last, couple of weeks, couple of months, couple of years, whatever it's been at this point. It's been too darn long, but you get the point. So the audio's not great because, once again, this was just at a breakfast meeting of concerned citizens on Friday morning that got sent to me over the weekend. And there were things that Kurt Skoog said, the mayor of Overland Park, who, of course, is also up for re-election here coming up in a couple of weeks, where he talked about, first off, how the Royals could work in Overland Park and what exactly this would look like. My reporting that I gave you 2 weeks ago at this point was that North Kansas City appears to be the front runner right now. Doesn't mean they're going to get it. Doesn't mean it's a done deal. I'm not doing any of this crossing the T's and dotting the I's dopey stuff that, other radio hosts in town are doing that give themselves lame nicknames after dogs and things of that nature. I'm not going to do that and go down that road. I'm just telling you they are feeling good about their status in Overland or in North Kansas City right now. They are. You got something for me?
Oh.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Old Basset Hound down the dial. So Overland Park is still in the mix, though. And obviously 119th and Knoll is the preferred site in Overland Park for the Royals if they do jump across the state line and decide they're going to take Kansas up on these star bonds. Here's what Kurt Skoog had to say at this breakfast meeting on Friday.
So the question is about the Royals. So the Kansas legislature decided that they were willing to fund the majority of its stadium if Royals or Chiefs. They created the special star bond district.
Now, even that, and this goes across party lines, even that framing of it, like, hey, the state of Kansas offered to fund the stadium. Well, no, that's not how it works. No, the taxpayer funds the stadium on the sales taxes from the additive revenues that would come from the Star Bond District. And depending on how the Star Bond District is drawn, it can be an absolute scam that actually takes money away from things that help real people in Overland Park or Wyandotte County or anywhere where the Star Bond District is drawn. So the government doesn't have anything without your money. Let's be very clear on this. Whether it's the state of Kansas, run by Republicans, whether it's Johnson County, run by Democrats, whether it's Overland Park, it doesn't matter. They don't have anything without your money. So that framing of it by the mayor, I believe to be, I think, purposefully misleading.
So the state is in negotiations, been publicly said they're in negotiations with both teams. One location, we have multiple locations in Overland Park where the Royals could fit and work, we think. Got a lot of work to do, but we think they could fit here. So as soon as the state gets done, if they can cut a deal, then we'll see if it ends up in Overland Park. But we have a couple sites where the Royals, we think, could work. We have to work on traffic.
We have to work, you heard Kurt Skoog, the mayor of Overland Park, say there on Friday, we have to work on traffic. Well, I'll give him that. He's right about that. You got to work on traffic. And at least part of the plan here is to make Knoll and Rowe and Antioch, 5 lanes on both sides in both directions. I'm pretty sure that you can't fix this problem. But the mayor did go on to say in this meeting on Friday morning to this breakfast club that they are looking at multiple locations in Overland Park, in his estimation, all along College Boulevard.
Along College Boulevard. So one of the ones that's been in the media is the Aspiria campus, which is the Old Spring campus. So we think it could work there. There's a couple other sites along College.
I know the audio's not great, but what the mayor is saying there is that, the Aspiria campus, the Old Spring campus, obviously, is the one that's gotten all the attention. And he says, I think it could work there. He goes on to say this.
Well, one would be Corporate Woods.
Corporate Woods! We could be neighbors with the old ballpark. How about that?
Just walk over to the stadium for an afternoon game after work.
Oh, my goodness. Right down the street here. Go figure. Oh, my goodness gracious. That would be something. Oh, you'd have people heckling John Sherman right outside of the office building here. Gosh, okay.
And there's a couple other sites I'd rather not say they would be redevelopment sites. But part of our comprehensive plan update is we need to transition our College Boulevard from suburban office into the office place of tomorrow, because kids today have different expectations than we did when we went to work.
Can someone explain to me what that means? I mean, I'm not like some old guy sitting here, all right, in my mid to late 30s. Do I have to call it mid or late 30s at this point? At 37. I'll hang on to mid for one more year. I think we agreed on that.
That's good. That's upper mid.
All right. That's good. I'm not some old fogey. And when I hear actual old fogies, with all due respect, be like, we've got to transition the workplace for younger people. They don't want this office space anymore. Well, they want to be YouTubers and work from home. So this whole idea of like the government needs to properly plan with mixed-use development, and then the government from there needs to basically give away the farm with tax incentives to developers to build these things. If there was such a demand for them, if that was really the way of the future, if there was an enormous amount of money to be made right out of the gates doing that stuff, then it wouldn't require taxpayer giveaways to do it. Right? I mean, just use common sense here. If this was the way of the future for workplaces and fun spaces and livable spaces that people really wanted around Kansas City and around the country, then you would have developers falling all over themselves with bids without requiring incentives to get the job done. But what you have is local municipalities who say the world is changing, office space is changing, where people want to live and how they want to live is changing. And that's why we have to get involved in some of these projects. Like what they talk about with the remodeling of Black and Veatch and those headquarters. It's like, okay, if they want to do it, let them do it. If they see that as a valuable spend for the future of their company, let them do it. Why do you have to be involved? Whether it's Black and Veatch, whether it's the Royals, whether it's anything else along College Boulevard. And, I'm looking around the job market and I hire here and, I know what's going on in the world when it comes to hiring and firing and looking around for opportunities and doing all those things. And I actually have never heard somebody say, well, what is your office space like? Do you know anyone who has actually made a decision for a job based on the actual office space itself? It might have been a nice little bonus. It might have been like a cool part, an additive thing. But I don't know anybody who's ever made this claim of like the combination of walkability and livability with workability all into one little cute sector of land in Corporate Woods is the reason that you took a job. I just don't know who that person is. And it gets used by politicians, not just in Overland Park, but all over the place for why they do what they do. And I don't get it. It feels like one big cop-out to me and one big excuse for why they have to get involved so heavily in what these developers are doing day to day. John?
Yeah, it's just that I don't want to come into the office to work. I want to work where I live. How far are we from you can live in factory, comrade? We're getting close. They just don't know it.
We are. You're right about that.
See, I live in this apartment building, so I'm going to only apply to the businesses down on the first floor.
Yeah.
I can only... You can live in factory, comrade.
Oh, my gosh. That's so true. That is so true. And I'll just tie this all together and say I don't blame John Sherman for any of this. As much as I believe the Royals have butchered a lot of this process, and that is just indisputable. I don't care who you are. They have screwed this thing up so many times in so many ways and done a poor job selling this at so many turns. We could talk all morning about it for 4 hours. But I don't blame John Sherman for looking at the options, and Kansas comes to the table, and Missouri's at the table, and he's kind of weighing what the best move is. But at some point, the politicians have to just stand up and say, we got to have a backbone for our own constituents here. And my fear is that Overland Park is really interested in bending over backwards on behalf of either the Royals or Black and Veatch or anybody else. And they're doing it under this guise of, well, this is the way of the future. This is what people want. This is what young workers are looking for. I mean, I'm a young worker. You know what people want? They want a good job. They want to eventually raise a family, and they want to own a house. That's what they want to do. Don't overcomplicate this, okay? Please. It's not necessary. If you were up in the very early morning hours this morning, you may have noticed that there were some major websites that were down or really slow. And what it was tied to was an Amazon Web Services outage that took place early this morning, and it took down numerous big-name websites as well. Amazon Web Services, which is a leader in the cloud infrastructure market, caused issues with websites like Reddit that was having problems, Snapchat, Disney Plus, Amazon, Canva. Crypto exchange Coinbase reported that many users were unable to access the service due to the outage very early this morning. This was about 4 o'clock our time when it was reported, and AWS, Amazon Web Services, cited an operational issue affecting multiple services and said it was working on multiple parallel paths to accelerate recovery. So Peloton, if you were trying to get on that Peloton bike very early this morning, you probably had issues. I know that's part of your early morning routine, John Anthony. At about 3 a.m., you hit the Peloton.
Can't do anything without internet access in my house, boy.
John hits the Peloton at 3 a.m., and then
Literally.
on a Monday, he goes and he gets his 2 Big Macs after, a big sack on Sunday.
Well, it's usually where the shirts out of the dryer are hanging on the Peloton, right there from handlebars.
So if you were looking for a reason to not work out this morning, you had it. And you could blame Amazon Web Services for that as well. So this is also impacted McDonald's app, the New York Times. Oh, what a shame. Robinhood, Ring Doorbell, T-Mobile, United Airlines, Venmo, Verizon. So
I'm sensing a pattern here.
Yeah.
Quite a few things, / too many things tied to that one deal.
I know.
Right? Thank goodness the airport's not tied to it.
I know. There is going to be a day, and God willing, it's not that bad. But when you think about where warfare is headed in this country and around the world, it is all going to be through the cloud. If you want to cut off the day-to-day, cut off the information spigot, and actually have major impacts on people's lives, it's all about the cloud services. It's all about the internet. It's crazy. And someone once said to me, hey, what's it going to take for people to really appreciate what radio is? Now, radio, especially the talk side, is still doing very well. I'm not just saying that for this show. I just mean in general, as a platform, it is doing very well. It still is, drawing revenue, drawing ratings, all those different things. But I said, if there ever is a day where, God forbid, you do have some type of major long-term internet issues, people are going to realize what we've got here, especially younger people who don't use it. We were talking to a bunch of high school kids last week. They came into the studio and they did a tour, and, I talked to them. And I said to these kids, I said, listen, you guys all listen to podcasts? Oh, yeah. What do we listen to? Oh, Joe Rogan, Howard Stern, the whole thing. I said, well, think about it like this. We are basically your favorite podcast that is broadcasting in real time that you can interact with. If there is some big breaking news, whether it's here in Kansas City or around the world, your podcast platform can't get it to you as quickly as we can. You turn on that radio dial right now to 95.7 FM, and we are having a conversation with you in real time. You can react to that conversation right now in real time. Now, yes, you could do that on YouTube Live and things of that nature. But if Amazon Web Services crashes, if, God forbid, warfare is done through the cloud services, these things are all screwed. I'm just saying, we're here for you every single morning, like clockwork. Yes, on a radio, also on your Google Home, also on your Alexa, also on your app, also on, all the different platforms that you'd want to be on. We're on all those places, and we're podcasting, of course. But you get back to the nuts and bolts. Thankfully, this Amazon Web Services issue was nothing more than some glitch on their end, and it looks like everything is back up and running. after being slow for a couple of hours at about 4 o'clock our time. But it's just a reminder in terms of what we've got here, John, that I think is still wildly valuable, and people don't quite realize that.
Woke up this morning before 4 o'clock. It was 1975 all over again. I'll tell you what.
Which I wouldn't even know anything about.
I was going to say, I'm not shaking in my boots here if any of this, all this stuff goes away. But
you'll be just fine.
Used to it, yeah.
You'll be just fine, John.
I can signal with a mirror into the sun. I can do smoke signals.
Mark's screwed. I don't know if Mark's going to be in some trouble there, though. I will say that much. If he can't place his bets.
He's just hoping it all happens after halftime of the game tonight with the Mariners playing the Jays. Hopefully that game will wrap up in his favor about that time.
Halftime at a baseball game? Did I just hear you make that reference, John Anthony?
No, Seattle. The Seahawks are on Monday night. Right?
Oh.
And they've got the Mariners playing.
Oh.
The Mariners game may be over at about halftime.
Oh. They're hoping for a big party at halftime of the Seahawks game tonight in Seattle.
Wound up tonight.
Is that what they're doing? Boy. Mm-hmm. Oh, gosh. All right. So all those wacko lefties.
So get the internet back on in Seattle here because we've got stuff to follow tonight.
So all those crazies in Seattle who were probably protesting their little hearts out over the weekend now will be celebrating potentially Mariners wins and Seahawks wins.
Well, they don't get into SeaTac till about 9:30 though because they've been all around the country dispersed.
Oh my goodness. It was a Woodstock reunion over the weekend. Oh, wait, it was another anti-Trump protest is what it actually was. One and the same. That's what it looked like. Whether it was in various parts of Kansas City or it was in Seattle or Chicago or New York or Atlanta, that was the demographic that showed up and showed out because of Orange Man Bad and No King or something. Somehow, though, the guy who apparently is a king allowed millions to protest against the king without doing anything, and then also is on day 20 now of a government shutdown, which I'm pretty sure the king would not want to do. But here we are. And if you missed some of this over the weekend, it was exactly what you would have expected. I can't believe Fox 4 goes down the Mill Creek Park, right? And there was a good crowd down there at Mill Creek Park. There wasn't, and we said it last week on Friday, there were too many rallies around Kansas City. There were 3 in Overland Park. There was 1 in Ottawa. It's just too much. Because some of these in OP, I saw 95th and Metcalf. Some of you sent me some photos on social media. It's like a dozen people out there. Looked like they got dragged out of the nursing home for a few minutes. Show up at the No Kings rally. It was embarrassing. But Mill Creek Park did have a decent crowd. So the local media goes down there on Saturday for the No Kings protest. And here were some of the gems courtesy of Fox 4.
The message behind No Kings, that the power belongs to the people in America.
It'll never be right with the kind of leadership that he's providing at this current time. It's important that we get out and that we let it be known, not just to the president, but to our representatives, Senator Hollis, Senator Schmid, and all the Republican House of Representatives.
I think there was an S on Hawley's. And then Eric Schmidt became Eric Schmid. Old Senator Schmid. I thought he was on the show a week ago. I might have called him by the wrong name. Next time I'll call him Old Schmid. And that's the kind of stuff that you had from down on Mill Creek over the weekend. That was it. That was the best and the brightest, I guess, is what you got. I mean, you know how this works, right? If you've seen some of these TV folks lingering around big events like this, they'll talk to anybody. They just want a decent soundbite to put on the news. And when that's one of the ones that you're airing, that tells me that it was slim pickings. Let's continue with Fox 4.
But this is not right. You need to stop it. We have 3 branches of government that are not working. You are a check and balance on this man. You need to do your job.
Well, Republicans are in the House and Republicans are in the Senate. Okay? What do you want them to do? They are doing what they believe they were elected to do. That's exactly what they're doing. And by the way, that third branch, you have the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branch. There is some belief that the third branch is actually doing too much, is actually being abused politically to try to slow down a duly elected government. So when the lady says there, hey, these three branches, they got to be checks and balances. Well, actually, you do have the third branch doing what you want it to do. And there's a legal belief, obviously on one side of the political aisle, that that branch has overstepped its own boundaries, right? Where everything gets stopped by some unelected judge in Virginia that no one could pick out of a lineup if their life depended on it. So between Senator Schmid and Senator Hawley's and the three branches got to checks and balances, the whole thing, it's like that's 30 seconds right there from someone on the plaza who has no idea what they're talking about. I mean, not a clue.
Taylor, who represents the local branch of the American Federation of Teachers Union, was at the protest to raise awareness about the state of the public education system.
Essentially, we are watching as the public education system is being crumbled beneath our feet, against the will of the voters and against the will of every single person here.
I don't even know what to say.
Being crumbled.
What are we talking about?
Exactly.
What are we talking about? I mean, was I in a coma at some point in the last 9-10 months? Was there a crumbling of the public education system that I'm not aware of by Donald Trump exclusively over the last 9 months? I know that there have been conversations around stopping funding to schools as it relates to things like, allowing boys to compete in girls' sports, things of that nature. I know those conversations have been out there. But I would like to know, because as someone who does this every day, I admit I don't know every story happening in every corner of the country right now. But I might have missed that one. I must have missed that one because Fox 4 wouldn't put somebody on like that who's just stone cold lying about what's going on in public education, right? So these are the people they put on television in Kansas City to talk about why they're there protesting. One lady who can't even name the U.S. senators in Missouri, and then is talking about checks and balances, which is actually happening right now. And then you have somebody else just making up like something about the crumbling of public education. It's the best you can do? It's all you got? I mean, at least the guy in Seattle was entertaining when he said this.
Trump's a big.
Yeah, why is that?
I don't know. We don't like him. That's the word around here.
Any particular reason why you don't like him?
No clue at all. I'm just going with everybody else.
At least that guy, put him on TV. Find that guy down at Mill Creek Park. At least he's funny. Mm-hmm. At least he's honest. I don't really know why I'm here. I don't really know what's going on. That's what I hear.
You got to wonder about the one that Fox 4 skipped. That they couldn't use it. Said, no, we can't. That guy can't go on.
I mean, if that's what they put on television here in Kansas City, what did they not put on, to your point there, John?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Seattle at least is honest, right? That's the word around here.
That's the best line. That's the word around here. So now there's a belief that the government shutdown may come to an end because they got through their little, No Kings AARP-sponsored event on Saturday, and they might be willing now, Chuck Schumer in particular, to get back to the business of the people. Here's what Kevin Hassett said this morning. He is an economic advisor to the President of the United States. He was on CNBC's Squawk Box, and here is what he had to say about the possibility of Democrats now caving on their shutdown that is approaching 3 weeks.
Well, first of all, the president has been very active throughout this process, but it's also his position that this is a thing that the Senate needs to work out. A lot of our friends in the Senate have said that it was just bad optics for Democrats to open the government before the No Kings rally, and that now there's a shot that this week things will come together and very quickly the moderate Democrats will move forward and get us an open government, at which point we can negotiate whatever policies they want to negotiate with regular order. Now, I was very pleased to see that my friend Senator Shaheen from New Hampshire, a very sound-minded Democrat, came out and supported opening the government on Friday. So it means that there's sort of cracks in the Schumer armor. I think the Schumer shutdown is likely to end sometime this week. But I can tell you that if the story that we've been basically hearing from moderates that, look, we just can't do it in front of the No Kings rally, if that ends up not being true, then I think that the White House is going to have to look very closely, along with Russ Vought, at stronger measures that we could take to bring him to the table.
I hope he's right. I really do. I hope he's right for the country's sake, even though most people aren't feeling anything involving this shutdown right now. I understand there are actual government employees who are furloughed, who aren't getting paychecks. Like, I understand that. And while the average private citizen's not feeling it right now, people are unnecessarily getting hurt because the Democrats want to use this as a political weapon. Just to reset this again real fast, the shutdown happened when the Republicans said, can we keep the current levels of spending where they're at for another 7 weeks? And Democrats said, no, we want to renegotiate Obamacare subsidies. And Republicans said, no, this is not the time to do that. We can do that when we debate the appropriations bills coming up here the next few weeks. We talk about next year's budget. Now's not the time to do it. We just want to keep the government open, which we've done for you guys and has happened under Joe Biden, has happened under Trump. It's happened under both sides of the aisle over the last several cycles. And Democrats said no. That's it in its most simplistic form, how we got to where we are today. And with each passing day, there is no reason for the Republicans to do anything here. If they had added, let's say, some kind of pork to their continuing resolution, which is what this bill is called, to just keep the government funded at its current levels, I could see Democrats being like, no, take your garbage out of there. We're going to negotiate that out. There's nothing for the Republicans to negotiate out of this bill right now. Just think about it. What are they going to negotiate out of the bill? Policy and legislation that they passed legally through the will of the people back in July with the big, beautiful bill, because that's what this is going back to. There's nothing for them to negotiate out right now, which is something I guess Chuck Schumer never really thought about when he forced this shutdown. So I hope for everyone's sake this thing is over by Friday, but I'm not going to hold my breath because I don't know how they get themselves out of this thing. If Trump's a king, which is what they were all saying over the weekend, then are you going to cave to the king come Tuesday? What's that say about what Saturday was all about? And that's where they've got themselves right now in a major pickle.